We are, and that's where we find Fox Weather Storm Specialist Mike Seidel. Mike is joining us out of Erie, Pennsylvania this morning. Erie is such a fun spot to be. Fun being perhaps a relative term, Mike, when it comes to lake effect snow. But Erie, Pennsylvania is still within the lake effect snow warning, and a nice little coating already this morning.
And the wind is gusting 35+ miles an hour. The wind chill's in the mid-20s. By the way, the temperature at the airport has been above freezing all night long, 35 at 9 a.m. Eastern. So there you go. If you're near that lake, it stays warmer because the lake water temperatures are still on the surface in the low 50s. And that's one of the reasons we're getting the lake effect, because of the difference between the surface temperature and the temperatures at 10,000 feet, which yesterday morning were measured at about 14 degrees Fahrenheit. Haven't gotten the latest upper air sounding from the area. We'll see what it is, but it's still a big difference. Now it's all about the wind direction and the band continuing to move from Ohio into Pennsylvania into western New York, and that's where we have in western New York certainly the lake effect snow warning in Chautauqua County, up into Cattaraugus counties. Those areas in the ridges, like the Chautauqua Ridge, could get another 6+ inches of snow today. It's been snowing this morning. We overnighted in Mayville, right there at Chautauqua Lake, and I measured 6 inches on the ground this morning. On the ground here, we have several inches. We're just outside of Interstate 90 in Erie, on the southeast side of Erie, and you can see the major roads. Well, they're in good shape, but not these secondary highways. I-90's fine until you go through a squall like we did this morning. But look at this, snow and slush, and you can see where the tire tracks are. You still have to slow down. That's I-90 in the distance. Let me take you back to our drive this morning on I-86. This is coming out of New York State into Pennsylvania, and you can see what we dealt with. The snow, the blowing snow. Notice the road surfaces. It's not dry asphalt by any means, so you got to give yourself some extra braking distance. And then we bring you back to Erie. This is one exit to the west, and we got a pretty darn good snow squall about 30 minutes ago, but they're very transient, and that one has now moved about 1 or 2 exits off to the east towards Buffalo, but you can see how it was snowing. Visibility was down about half a mile, half to 3/4 of a mile. And once again, with temperatures around freezing where we are and above freezing near the lake, that's helping out the roads a bit. And now we're getting some daylight, even seeing a few peaks of blue sky here in Erie. So, ladies and gentlemen, the first lake effect of the season. It's certainly not historic. It's not shutting things down, but it reminds you that 'tis the season. November, December are the prime lake effect months because that's when the lakes are warmer. We get these cold air masses. This is a cold air mass. Not so much here. We're not setting records here, but I did notice my thermometer in my backyard down in North Georgia this morning dropped down to 26 degrees. And that'll take care of the mosquitoes and the gnats. That's a good thing about that. There are other things that are negative, but we'll take the pest control angle at this point.
I was thinking about that.
I had a fly in my house.
What?
I did try to release him. I tried to release all the flies that fly into my home, but I don't think he wanted to go back outside. I think he was very happy in my heated home. But what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
Mike, you talked about 86.
Ready the weather fly.
Right, exactly. It's funny, I thought about that this morning too. You talked about 86 as well, I-86, Chautauqua. Sometimes the lake there, you can get a little more enhancement off of some of the lakes there, not just Lake Erie and Ontario, right?
Yeah,
a little bit.
I'm going to have to beg to differ on that.
Okay, he's like,
I just
no,
don't think
that's
there's
a
enough.
pass.
He's gonna brew on that.
You know, it's just not. It's just not wide enough. It's like this wide. But
Yeah.
nice try. I give you effort. I give you an A for effort.
We just like to see those big snow totals, so we want to throw all the moisture we can at this Arctic air and see what it can pump out.
He's got to know.
By the way, this morning we've seen totals 8 to 10 inches south of Erie, down in Crawford and Warren counties. Those areas are under the warning until 1 p.m. You get south of the lake and you get some elevation. The same in western New York, but down around Titusville, not that far from here. We've got 8, 9, 10 inches of snow on the ground, and that's pretty healthy. That's a pretty good lake effect event. We're not talking feet of snow like we had last year, the weekend after Thanksgiving, but we're going to mosey on up towards Buffalo, and we'll be back in an hour and try to find you a really healthy, meaty, juicy lake effect snow band.
Love it.
Yesterday we had 5 locations yesterday. Today we're going to try to keep it at a minimum of one or two. We'll see. But we got to give you the best pictures and do the best we can, because we don't have a transporter to just beam us to a location where it's snowing. We're just at the whim of the wind direction and the roads.
Yeah.
So we'll see you at 10 a.m. Eastern, and hopefully we'll have something really good for you to see.
I can't wait. Yeah, we don't have teleportation yet. But yeah, you had some great shots last night, Mike, following the really heavy snow. So
cool.
Looking forward to what you find as you head closer to Buffalo. Fox Weather Storm Specialist Mike Seidel joining us out of Erie, Pennsylvania. Thanks, Mike. We've got Mike Seidel, Storm Specialist Mike Seidel, joining us from location number 2.
Oh, he's moved.
So last time we spoke to Mike was in Erie, Pennsylvania, which remains under the winter storm warning. But now you are in Mayville, New York. So I'm guessing between Erie and Buffalo?
Kind of.
Okay.
We're closer to Erie than Buffalo, and we've crossed the state line, so notify those authorities. We're now in New York State. This is one of the snowbelt towns. I was here last year, the first day of a 4-day lake effect snow dump. The weekend after Thanksgiving, the first day here, we had nearly 40 inches of snow. That's not the case this time, but you can see we've got a nice snowfall coming down. Lake effect, not a lot of wind where we are. We're a little bit protected, but I want to show you our drive coming from just outside of Erie on 90 this way. And to get here, the easiest way is 90 to 86 and take that east. And this is right after we got into New York State on 86, and you can see the snow, the visibility, and look at the road surface. We were doing about 45, and the speed limit, I guess, is 60 or 65 miles an hour. And then we found the snowplow. He was over in the left lane, and we were able to safely navigate. Remember, give the snowplows distance, but it's okay. Just be careful when you pass them. And we passed it on the right, and we were on our way. And then between Sherman and Mayville, it's a 2-lane road. It's called the Sherman Mayville Road, and a lot of hills as we're coming off the lake and getting into elevation. And we got behind another snowplow. We couldn't pass that one, and we were behind it for a while. He was doing about 15 miles an hour, but safety first. And notice the roadways. Here's the situation. We're right around 30, 31 here in Mayville, but we've got daylight. And even though the sun angle is heading toward its lowest point, the solstice coming up in about 5-6 weeks, we still get radiation, and these, what we call black bodies, these asphalt surfaces, soak it all up. So the roadways are nice and wet right here. They've salted these in town. We were coming on that road I just mentioned, and 86, it was snowing harder, and they had been salted too, but the snow was just coming down a lot harder, even harder than this. And this is probably about a half an inch or so an hour, big flakes, and a little bit more wind now. We found you a band, and we hope to stay in a band for the rest of the coverage into this afternoon.
Yeah, Mike, boy, what a difference, right? What was it like driving there? I mean, you talked about how, you know, there's some areas that get some snow bands, some that don't.
It was slow on 86, and then when we got on the road between Sherman and here, it actually almost stopped snowing. And then we got into Mayville, and we came back into this band. You can see this is coming, has a Lake Huron connection, coming from Lake Huron across Ontario, and there have been numerous lake squall warnings over in Ontario from the Environment Canada. That's their weather service. And then that comes across Erie, and this is where we are in this band. And these areas are under the lake effect snow warning till early this afternoon. We'll see if they extend it. But again, the ridges across Cattaraugus here in Chautauqua County, up towards the Boston Hills south of Buffalo, elevation and lift, and you get more snowfall. In some of these areas today could get another 6+ inches of snow. Not particularly cold, but again, the biggest snowstorms, if you look back, most of those occur between about 24 and 32 degrees. That's where you get your biggest blockbusters, especially on the East Coast. And let's do a little snow dance and hope that we get some blockbusters on I-95 this winter. I know there are some listening right now that would rather me not say that, but you know, as weather weenies, we haven't had a really good one in the big cities for a while, at least all the big cities at once.
I think we talk about it every winter season. Is it gonna happen? Is it not? I mean, you know, I've lost hope, Mike, to be quite honest. But when it comes to snow, wanted to tell you, we measure the distance of the snow band you are under from Lake Huron over Erie, over towards Mayville, New York. It is about 600 miles. Some of these snowflakes, as you know, did actually make it to the I-95 today. And I was telling Craig earlier, if these snowflakes could talk, the story they would tell. Oh, wait, we said 180 miles. I said 600. Look at me being dramatic. Look at me
That
being
makes
dramatic.
more sense, not 600. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Fake weather stats from Marissa Torres. Fake weather stats.
It's like, Mike, when my husband would be like, can you measure it real quickly? How tall do you think it is? I'm like, I don't know, like 8 feet. And then you look at it and it's like 6 feet. But everything when you're 5 feet tall just looks so much taller than you. I don't know.
It's all good. Hey, you know, big things come in small packages.
I love that.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate you. Hey,
Look at this. It's beautiful.
it is
Do a dance.
beautiful.
I'm waiting for him to do the
You
dance
wait.
sometimes.
Craig wants you to dance. I don't know.
I'm going to do it with you because, you know, I love winter. And we haven't had one in New York. Last one we had that was decent, 17 inches in Central Park, was January of 2021. I mean, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's
So
going to
bring
be
it-
6 years.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I mean 5 years. 5 years.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, we're overdue in the big cities. Boston's had one or two decent storms. D.C., Baltimore had some snow last year, but where I'm from, down on the Eastern Shore at the beaches, they had 22 inches, and that was more than Dulles Airport and Reagan National, and I believe BWI down at the coast because of the proximity to the water. A lot of times when I grew up there, we get about an hour of snow, and then it would change to rain, and everybody west of the bay would be clobbered, and they would be out of school, and we go to school.
Yeah.
So it's that's the way it was back then,
Yeah.
and even today. But last year, the cold air held in the Delmarva area, Maryland, Delaware, Virginia, got a fair amount of snow, almost 2 feet.
Yeah.
The average at the station in Salisbury, I believe now, is a little over 8 inches of snowfall. When I was a kid, it was about 12.5 inches. So those 30-year averages have trended down.
Yeah.
That's a drop of about 30% since the averages I used were from 1931 to 1960 when I was a kid growing up in the 60s.
I think a lot of us have those stories, though, where we think about
No,
those
it's
big
true.
snows as a
Yeah.
kid. And sometimes it's perspective, but sometimes it actually is, when you look at the data, trending downward. Regardless, snow is very divisive, Mike. Some
Yeah.
people don't want it, some do. We'll see how it all plays out. Either way, Mayville, New York
Yeah.
already has about half a foot and more is falling. So
Good to see you.
Fox Weather Storm Specialist Mike Seidel. Thanks, Mike. In the meantime, I want to take it to the ground where some of the snow is falling. We have storm specialist Mike Seidel, who's joining us from location number 3. Location number 3, because Mike has been jumping around throughout the morning. Let's walk everybody backwards, Mike. First, you were in Erie, Pennsylvania. Then you traveled northeast and you landed in Mayville, New York. And now you are in
Right.
Sinclair, New York. Is that correct?
Near Sinclairville, we're just outside of
Sinclairville.
town. It's a very small town, and we're right on the edge of the band. I want to show you what we measured here. There's the brand new Fox weather stick with the new logo, just about 7 inches. So, you know, a healthy dose of lake effect, nothing that's unheard of in mid-November in this part of New York State. But speaking of the edge of the band, we look off to the west a little bit, south and west, and there's the blue sky. You see a little bit of blue sky over there. So we're right on the edge. You can see a few flakes flying by the camera, but we're going to look down here and we can look into the meat of the band, or at least the darkening skies, and even that has changed in the past minute or two since we got set up for the shot. Lloyd, you want to come a little farther out here, you'll see it a little bit better past this pine tree, but in the distance, just a few minutes ago, I could not see that row of trees in the distance there past the end of the road at the curve. So the visibility's even come up there as it continues to jog from the northwest to the southeast. And Marissa, as we mentioned earlier, it has a connection back to Lake Huron, then it comes over Lake Erie. In this area in Chautauqua County, Cattaraugus, these higher elevations, especially on the ridge, are scraping out the moisture, and this is where we're going to stay in this general area for the rest of our coverage, because if we go any farther towards Buffalo, we're going to get out of the snow bands. Temperature right now, 30 degrees where we are. So it is just below freezing. Remember this morning in Erie and all night in Erie, it stayed above freezing. It was 35 this morning at 9 a.m. when we started. Marissa?
Yeah, it is so fun to see you take this journey from southwest to northeast, where the snow in some cases is still falling. It is just also, I'm trying to think out how far. I mean, granted, Western New York from the I-95 corridor, it is a very far journey, but it's just two very different stories coming out of this state today when it comes to the lake effect. And I mean, New York, though, still cold this morning.
Yes. Say that again about this morning. I missed the word.
I was trying to imagine the distance between Sinclairville out of Western New York, right, off of Lake Erie. Then you head to the I-95 corridor, where we're really not snowy, though we did have some of these snowflakes, Mike, and everybody was very excited about it. But it's a story of very different story in two different parts of the state.
Yeah, it's got to be a pretty strong system to get snowflakes all the way from the Great Lakes down to I-95. That doesn't happen very often, as you well know. And we had snowflakes that came all the way into North Carolina. By the way, the ski resorts in West Virginia and North Carolina, Marissa, had their snow guns on last night. I saw the temperature at Snowshoe was down around 13 degrees. Boone was in the teens. So those ski resorts are making snow now because it's so cold. Granted, it's mid-November, and it is going to get back above freezing this week, but they're trying to build up that base because a couple of days ago there was no base. It was just bare ground. So the snow guns have been on, even down into Tennessee, Gatlinburg, Ober-Gatlinburg, that resort was making snow last night and this morning. Temperatures there were in the upper teens in Tennessee, and we even had a few flakes around the metro Atlanta area yesterday. So a big shot of cold air. No records set in those areas. Down in Florida, we had some records, but it's a quick hit. It's kind of a mobile Arctic air mass, and in the next couple of days, we're going to see temperatures respond very nicely, getting back to and even above average in the southeast. Some sun poking out as the band thins out and more visibility in the distance. And we're going to be on the air through mid-afternoon, trying to find you some snow here on Fox Weather. It's not one of these deals where you set up, Marissa, for a snowstorm on I-95 and you just stand there and cover it for 8 or 9 hours. This is very transient in nature, and even more so than the lake effect we covered the weekend after Thanksgiving last year, where we had this solid band and we had 38 inches the first day in Mayville. It just didn't move. Different setup. We didn't have the wind direction changing, and this atmosphere has some dry air mixing in. So it's not the ideal situation where we get basically crippling snowfall. That one shut down Interstate 90 at times. This time, I-90 is fine, but again, you go through the band and you'll have to slow down. Real quick, let's show the video we sent in about 20 minutes ago. I think we have time. The video from the drive from Mayville to Sinclairville, and you can see how hard it was snowing. And you can see the hills and the valleys and how the road looks. And we were doing about 35, maybe 40 miles an hour on this road. So not great driving when you're in the bands, especially on these roads like this one that has been treated and scraped, but notice just the one lane is showing asphalt. This lane going that direction is covered for some reason. I'm not quite sure. Maybe they didn't salt one side of the road and salted the other side of the road. Maybe that's the reason, Marissa.
Could have been. Yeah, it could have been. Either way, the video you were able to capture this morning, it is beautiful to see. And I know we're going to rebound and we're going to get some rain by the end of the week and some of that snow will melt away. Perhaps the best scenario for folks, because maybe they're not quite ready to dive into a sticking snow for the rest of the season. But hey, what's your final destination, Mike? Where are you trying to get to? Up towards Buffalo?
Atlanta, Georgia.
It's the wrong direction. But there were flakes reported just north of Atlanta, I saw.
Oh, you mean... Oh, I thought you meant tonight. No, we're going to stay in this area now because if you look at the radar, Huron, Lake Erie into basically Chautauqua and Cattaraugus counties. So we're going to be basically in this county or this general area for the duration of the coverage because if you go up towards Buffalo, you're out of the band and we don't want to stand there and not show you anything. We're trying to show you the best pictures. And sometimes, like yesterday and today, you got to work for it. Because the atmosphere is moving around with those wind directions. That's the issue with lake effect. We saw that in Chicago. We thought they were going to get a lot, but Cook County got missed with that mesocyclone, and it kind of shunted everything south and east. And some areas in northwest Indiana and well south of Chicago had up to a foot of snow. So it's very precarious in this situation. But we're gonna keep at it. We're gonna keep looking and hunting down those snow squalls for you.
If it's out there, you will find it. No better man for the job Storm specialist Mike Seidel heading in towards the Buffalo area, following the snow, not towards Atlanta. But if we're picking warm places, it wouldn't be Atlanta, Mike. I'd pick like the Bahamas or something. So just want to throw it out there. Thank you, Mike, for that.
Yep.
Out of Sinclairville, New York.
Lake Erie in Ontario could see up to 8 inches worth of snow. Right now, Fox's Mike Seidel is out there. You've been running around all across the Great Lakes right now. Now you're in South Dayton, New York. Mike, you've been chasing these bands. It's been fun to watch, my friend.
Yes, it's been interesting. Yesterday we did 5 locations to bring you the best visuals we could on Fox Weather, Mr. Van Dillen. And I saw you looking very cool and comfortable out there in front of Fox headquarters on Avenue of the Americas with your sunglasses and the snowflakes. The sunglasses were more visible than the snowflakes. Right, Bob?
Yeah, you're not lying about that. You're absolutely right.
Anyway, speaking of New York, LaGuardia is de-icing for lake effect. That's not very typical. We're de-icing also nearby Buffalo, also Detroit, because of continued lake effect falling down, although it's going to wind down later on today. And the next couple of days, we'll see some lake effect rain and snow showers in these areas, but temperatures will be safely above freezing. Right now in South Dayton, we're 31. We're in between bands. We've got a few flakes coming down. You can see how bright it is around the horizon. These are the bands. If we can spin around that way, Lloyd, these are the bands. They come and go. Sometimes you get a few peaks of sun like we just did, and then you look off in the distance and it looks kind of dark, much like in the summertime when we have thunderstorms. Let me run down some of these totals for you, Bob. The highest number I saw in the area, Hightown, Pennsylvania. This is south of Erie. Warren and Crawford counties did very well. 12.5 inches, over a foot. Jamestown on I-86, we were there earlier, 8 inches. Cattaraugus, 7.7. Franklinville had 6.5. And north of Buffalo, they didn't do very bad either. Lockport has had 7.5 inches so far. Let me take you on our tour. First, we'll start you out in Erie, Pennsylvania. We drove from Mayville to Erie to start off at 9 a.m. Eastern, and look at the snow coming down over I-90. I-90 in pretty good shape this morning for our trips back and forth, although when it snows hard, the road gets covered up. Then we took the drive after that shot. After the 9 o'clock shot, we drove from Erie over to Mayville in Chautauqua County. And this is on I-86, which takes you from Pennsylvania into New York State. And it's a beautiful drive, but look at it today. Wind and snow, again, in a squall, and visibility down less than a quarter of a mile, and you got to slow down. And then after a 10 a.m. shot, we took you, the travelogue continues, Mr. Van Dillen. We took you from Mayville to Sinclairville. Now, this is typical, these 2-lane roads back here in these ridge and valley areas, the Chautauqua Ridge. And once again, doing about 35, 40 miles an hour. And notice the snow-covered roadways. And getting into Mayville, we got behind a snowplow, so that slowed us down a little bit more. So since then, we've moved up here to South Dayton. A few flakes coming down. Temperature 31 right now. By the way, Bob, all night long at Erie International, it was 35. It stayed above freezing, and they had wind gusts over 35 miles an hour. Not much wind right now. We're looking down the roadways. You can see slushy. Still, you can see the asphalt. You got to slow down, especially look over here on the neighborhood streets where they've not been plowed or treated. You can see snow packed and snow covered. So that's the situation. If they haven't been plowed or treated or both, you're going to have like this parking lot. You're going to spin out if you, certainly if you don't have all-wheel or at least front-wheel drive. So, Bob, it's been a pretty decent lake effect snow setup. Not the one we had like last November, the last week of November last year after Thanksgiving. First day in Mayville, we had 38 inches of snowfall.
Yeah, that was a total blast. That was right into the fire. This one looks like we're kind of easing into the season a little bit, right, Mike? I mean, it's just one lobe of cold air. It looks like it kind of gets out of here rather quickly.
Yes, and I talked to an owner of a restaurant on our previous stop. I think it's Cherry Creek. And she said, if this is all we get, that's fine with her. So they're not disappointed. They're not disappointed that they're not shoveling feet of snow and getting snowed in. In fact, one gentleman came in and said, yeah, the first one we got like 4 feet, 4.5, it melted. And then the next one we got another 3 or 4 feet, and that stuck around because of the cold weather. So this one is not going to really stick around because temperatures the next couple of days are going to be about 40. And then by Friday, we'll probably get close to 50. That's the average high today in Buffalo, 50 degrees at Buffalo Niagara International Airport, which, as I tell you right now, the flight back to the south is on time and not canceled.
Wow.
So myself and Lloyd Alford, our photographer, we are happy campers.
That's good.
Not that we don't love Western New York, but we want to get back to Georgia where it's going to be 70 again later this week.
Yeah, you know, it was snowing in my neighborhood up there in the northern suburbs of Atlanta last night. My son was telling me. So, but, you know, take your time getting back. It's going to get warm eventually. But
I had my thermometer at 26.6 this morning. First freeze of the year. And I estimated temperatures were below freezing in the northern suburbs about 7 hours. So now we're back up. I just checked. We're back up to 45, and tonight we'll not go back below freezing in Metro Atlanta. So we're through this one, but you know, it's only mid-November. It will go below freezing again before March. He says with confidence.
I'm pretty confident in that as well. Yeah, my son broke the dog off the fire hydrant this morning. It was that cold, Mike. Mike Seidel in South Dayton, New York.
Wow.
Yeah, cold. Good to talk to you. We'll get you in a little bit. But we've got Mike Seidel hanging out there live. He is in New York State at this point, and kind of in between bands. But yeah, you're in a good, outstanding in your field right now with a little bit of snow up to your ankles. It looks like, Mike.
Yes, that's about it. About 6 inches here. In fact, I just talked to, via text, Lori Dankert. She is a co-op observer with the National Weather Service out of Buffalo. She reports snowfall and temperatures and rainfall every day. She's been doing it here in Perrysburg for 30 years. And the average snowfall, 30-year average here, is just over 200 inches. That's the 30-year average. One year she had 325 inches right here in Perrysburg, and she was so excited to tell me that she whooped up on the Tug Hill Plateau, Mr. Van Dillen. And you know that's not easy to do when you're talking about the totals they get off Lake Ontario. In fact, those areas still under that winter weather advisory until 6 p.m. this evening. So we've got snow on the ground. The roads are in pretty good shape. We've had some peaks of sun. Temperatures right around freezing now, and anything scraped and treated is in good shape. But coming down the ridge, the top of the ridge here is about 2,000 feet. Here we're about 1,200 to 1,300 feet. And to put that in perspective, Lake Erie is about 575, I believe. So we're about 700 or 800 feet above the lake surface. And then the ridge is about 1,400 feet. So you've got the wind upsloping, and that orographic lift squeezes out the snowflakes. So we don't have much falling right now, but it is chilly for this time of year. The average high right now in Buffalo is 50. We're in the low 30s. Let me take you back on our tour. We woke up in Mayville with 6 inches on the ground. We drove to Erie to start our coverage, trying to figure out where these fickle bands were going to be, and we hit pay dirt. This is 9 a.m. in Erie off the Peach Road exit, and you can see the snow, and that's Interstate 90. It was coming down pretty hard. Again, it snows hard for about 10 minutes, then it backs off. So after that, we said, let's head back towards Mayville. Why not? It was such a beautiful drive coming west. We'll go back east. This is Interstate 86, and that takes you from I-90, the thruway in New York, but on I-90 in Pennsylvania, into New York State, and look at the visibility there. Below a quarter mile, even maybe an eighth of a mile at times, gusty winds and moderate to heavy snowfall. And look at the road surface. That tells you you got to slow down. And again, it's really about where you are. This is not a mesoscale, large-scale snowstorm that affects multiple states. This is very localized, like summertime thunderstorms. Then, after we did the 10 o'clock hit in Mayville with some very heavy snowfall, that was the winner so far of each live shot. We drove from Mayville to Sinclairville. Now, these are country back roads, 2 lanes in Chautauqua County. And notice the road surface here. Again, when it's snowing hard, even though the road's been scraped and likely salted, it does get snow-packed and snow-covered. So we're doing about 35 miles an hour there in Sinclairville. Here in Perrysburg, we're now in Cattaraugus County, which is the next county up and over. And just a few flakes right now, Bob and Kiana, as the warning has ended. The advisories have been dropped, except for some counties north of Buffalo, and then the counties I mentioned off Ontario, like Syracuse, Oswego, and then up towards the Tug Hill Plateau.
Yeah, Mike, you know what amazes me? The leaves over there are so beautiful for the first part of fall, but in about 6 hours, it goes from the beautiful fall to the black and white season. It looks like you're right there on the cusp of nothing but black and white for the rest of the winter.
Right. We got a few leaves. Looks like a maple tree down there. So there's still a few leaves. And there was concern, Bob, with this storm that we get enough snow on the trees that have some leaves that would weigh them down. Remember the horrible impact we had back in Buffalo in mid-October. This is about 12, 14 years ago,
Yep.
and they had a very heavy lake effect snow set up with very heavy wet snow. Temperatures right around freezing or above, multiple inches. And in mid-October, the trees are still full of leaves, and they lost literally thousands of trees from that situation. Fortunately, 3 to 4 weeks later on the calendar, most of the leaves are off, and we didn't have a heavy wet snow, and we didn't have the kind of accumulations. But that was a remarkable setup to get that kind of snow in mid-October. And boy, those leaves just grab that wet snow, and the limbs just come down on the power lines. No issues today. I see some kids playing a snowball fight down there, so I'm guessing school was out today. I checked earlier. I didn't see anything in Chautauqua County, but maybe classes were out in Cattaraugus County. I would be surprised because this is really not anything that typically shuts down Western New York.
You know, we heard there was some virtual learning going on in the Atlanta metro because it was cold.
That's nuts.
It's embarrassing.
Really?
That's embarrassing.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Really?
Yes, that's what we heard in the
Really?
meeting today. Yeah, I'm embarrassed living down there. I'm like, come on, just go to school. What are you, crazy? I don't care how cold it is. Come on. Anyway, Mike
Well,
said,
I'm surprised that they didn't just cancel classes, you know.
Exactly.
After Snowmageddon about 10, 12 years ago, if there's a winter weather advisory in metro Atlanta, that's it for the next day.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
You know what happens a lot of times the next day? A few flakes, but now that we have virtual learning, snow days are becoming extinct in this world.
Yeah, it's a shame. I remember listening to the radio to see if my school was canceled. I mean, that's how old we are. Anyway, Mike
Exactly.
said it was great. He's up there in Western
Yes.
New York. Mike, great report as
No
well.
school!
Go get you some buffalo wings. You're right there, man. I know you love that stuff, Mike. Good stuff, Mike Seidel in
Beef on
Perrysburg.
weck.
Got it, Mike. We'll check back in with you in a bit. Thank you. All right, let's get out there, right? We've got Mike Seidel traveling around right now. Some pictures he had from Finlay Lake that was in New York earlier. Possible whiteout. Yeah, I wouldn't say possible. That's pretty good whiteout conditions right there. Lake Ontario, yeah, you saw a good batch of snowfall. Like I said, 8.5 inches worth of snow between Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. So right in the thick of it, it's Fox Weather's Mike Seidel. He is in Perryville, New York right now. Mike, you've been traveling around following these bands. Looks like it's kind of petering out a touch off of Erie, but Lake Ontario, we still have the advisories going on.
Yes, they've dropped the warnings here. We're now in Gowanda. We're right on the Erie-Cattaraugus County line on the river here in Gowanda. That's okay. We're moving so fast, we hardly even know where we are. And the sun is coming out as the snow band has weakened and moved away from us. It's quickly moving off to the east and northeast. There's still some snow you can see on the radar. Extreme northeast part of Cattaraugus County, parts of Erie County, and then over into Wyoming County, farther away from the lake. But for all intents and purposes, we're done with the accumulating snow. And tonight, though, again, all the slush will refreeze. It hasn't been treated. There's that northwest wind over the bank building, and you can see it. The wind chill at Buffalo International is 24. The temperature now 34. They've got some very light snow, so they are de-icing there and also in Detroit. And they've been de-icing most of the day at LaGuardia because of those snowflakes blowing all the way down to the I-95 corridor. Let me take you back to this morning. We started in Mayville, Chautauqua County. We decided to go to Erie to start our shots at 9 a.m. Eastern. And we got some pretty good snow at our location in Erie. And then we made the decision, I made the decision to head back towards Mayville as the band continued to shift from southwest to northeast. And this is the drive. Bob just showed some of this. This is I-86 as we went from Pennsylvania into New York State. And as you notice, visibility down to about 1/8 of a mile at best, and you got to slow down because of the road conditions. I don't care how much salt they throw on the roads. When it snows this hard, it's going to stick no matter really what the temperature is, even though it was 30, 31 degrees. We did our Mayville shot. It was snowing pretty good there. And then we decided to go from Mayville to Sinclairville. And many of the roads there are just 2-lane roads. This ridge and valley topography with the Chautauqua Ridge up to about 2,000 feet. That's the highest point in Chautauqua County. So we go up and down, and we have to watch our braking because the roads there too, with a snow squall, were snow covered. Bob ran down the snowfall totals. We had as much as a foot south of Erie, across Warren and the other county slips my mind right now, but the counties south of Erie County. Things have wound down for the most part on I-90 between Cleveland and Buffalo, with the exception of one little band in northeast Ohio and some snow as you go up I-90 into the city of Buffalo. But Bob, this is pretty much on the way out. Now the warm air will start to come in, and that's going to mean a few showers of rain or snow the next couple of days, but temperatures, high temperatures will be about 40, and that will preclude any accumulations. And then by the end of the week, we'll be back up to the average high, which today in Buffalo is 50 degrees. So and we'll get back to average after our first lake effect snowfall of the season. Nothing epic, about average, 6, 8, 9 inches of snow. Some areas got a little bit more. And temperatures have been today flirting with freezing away from the lake. By the way, all night long last night, Erie at the airport, because of the wind coming off the warm lake temperatures in the low 50s. The temperature in Erie all night was above freezing. In fact, at sunrise this morning, it was 35, so that really helped things on the roadways close to the lake. The same here in western New York. We're back away from the lake, so our temperature right now is at 30, I think I checked on our rental car, 33 degrees. Not official, but semi-official.
Yeah, pretty
Bob?
close. Yeah, pretty close. And Mike, as we watch the lake effect snow go away, the sandwich comes in. What are we having for lunch today? You're in western New York. What's the go-to?
I had the pot roast melt.
Nice.
Minus the melt.
That was
Minus the cheese. So it's
Gotcha.
pot roast on toasted bread. And I want to tell you, when you're out here in the cold weather and you're moving around, it hit the spot, as my dad used to say.
Nice.
So, yeah, I inhaled that sucker. I'm ready for dinner. I'm ready for dinner now.
Yeah, I did that.
Priorities,
I was going to ask, it's like a buffalo chicken sandwich. No, pot roast. I didn't think. Why not? It's perfect weather for it.
It was the special at the Perrysburg Diner, friends.
Nice. Perrysburg Diner. I got to remember that when I go up there. Mike Seidel up there in western New York. Always fun to talk to you, my friend. Great stuff, Mike.
Let's head out to Hamburg, New York, where we will find our storm specialist, Mike Seidel. Mike, you've been driving under the flakes. You've been moving all around. How have things been looking today?
Well, we had snow this morning and early this afternoon. Now the snow is over with here in Hamburg. We're right on the interstate I-90, and I can show you how good it looks. In fact, it looks terrific. It's a little damp, but temperatures are well enough above freezing here. We're in the upper 30s. Now, Buffalo checking in at the top of the hour at 3 Eastern at 34. Wind chills are in the mid-20s. Still gusty west to southwest winds, and that wind direction, the change in wind direction, is pushing the band out of here, and so the advisories and warnings from Buffalo south were discontinued at 1 p.m. A little bit of snow on the ground here. Buffalo has had 2 to 3 inches. North of town, though, you get up towards Niagara and areas north, and they've had, around Lockport, they had 6, 7, 8 inches in some of those areas. Let me take you on our travelogue today and show you some of the video we dealt with while driving the highways and byways of Pennsylvania, New York. We'll start off on I-86. This hooks up on 90 in extreme northeast Pennsylvania, takes you along the southern tier. Used to be called the Quick Way. That's 17 coming up towards the Catskills from New York. That's what I knew it as years ago. But you get over towards Jamestown, then you can get up towards Lake Chautauqua. So it was a little bit dicey. Those squalls, when you drive through one of those squalls, you gotta slow down because it snows pretty hard. Visibility spots down less than 1/8 of a mile. You've got horizontal blowing snow, and the roads slick it up very quickly, even if it's below freezing, even if the roads have been treated. It doesn't matter because the intensity of the snow overwhelms the melting process by the salt and even the daylight, and even with temperatures at or below freezing. So we had that drive on I-86. We have the drive on some of the local roads, the 2-lane roads through the hills and valleys of the Chautauqua Ridge. And it's those higher elevations. Remember, the ridge goes up to 2,000 feet. The lakefront, Lake Erie elevation is about 570 feet, I believe, 575. So you get up there into where we were earlier, Perrysburg, South Dayton, the Mayville area, and the elevation jumps up above 1,000 feet, even higher than that, 1,200 feet in Perrysburg. So that orographic lift, we end up with a snowfall, and we had as much as 12 inches well away from the lakefront south of Erie. Warren and Crawford counties did well, as they usually do. And Perrysburg, by the way, averages about 200 inches of snow a year. That's the last 30-year average. from 1991 to 2020. And Lori Dankert, the cooperative observer there from the Weather Service, she's been doing that, measuring snow for 30 years. And one year she had over 300 inches of snow. So that goes to show you those ridges. We left there just a half an hour ago. You come down in elevation, and this is what you see on the ground. Not much of anything. Everything's melted off. Next couple of days, we will have some scattered rain and snow showers as the warm air comes back in. And then by Friday, the forecast thinking is that no rain, no snow, sunshine comes back out as we kick off the weekend, and temperatures back to average. The average high today in Buffalo was 50, so we're once again 15 degrees below average. Kiana, first lake effect of the season, nothing historical or epic, but when you get 8 to 12 inches of snow, it's certainly worth mentioning, and you got to shovel and plow. And it didn't really impact schools today. Many schools were closed for Veterans Day, so nobody lost any time in the classroom, and I don't think anybody, well, with schools closed, that means no digital learning, at least in this part of the world.
They made out pretty lucky, didn't they? Because that was not the case down in Georgia. I know earlier we were talking about Georgia getting a bit of a virtual learning day because of the cold temperatures. So looks like New York, Buffalo, parts of the upstate New York area definitely lucked out with it being a holiday. Before I let you go, I want to ask you, you've been to so many different locations. Any of them really peaked to you? Have any of the residents there have told you, like, oh, this is the perfect way to kind of start winter? We will take on this, because I know they moved there for the winter weather.
Well, I don't know if anybody, well, maybe some people move for winter weather, but I talked to locals, and I talked to one waitress this morning, and she said if this is all we get, that's fine, meaning she was happy with the 6 to 8 inches. That was in, I believe, Cherry Creek, New York State, upstate, Western New York, I should say, not upstate, but Western New York, not far from here. So she said, 8 or 9 inches, we can deal with it. But last year they had 4.5 feet there, and then they had another, that all melted, and then they came back with another 3 or 4 feet later, I believe in December, and that stuck around for a while because of the cold temperatures. But I want to say about the school today, back in the day when they had snow days, when I was in high school some 50 plus years ago, snow days were great. We love snow days. And it was a waste of a good snowstorm if it occurred on a day where you were already off.
Yes.
It's like, wait a minute, we want this to cancel a school day. If we're already off, or if it's Saturday or Sunday, we're not getting the benefit of the snowfall to let us out for a day or two. But that's not the way it works these days, many, many years later.
I absolutely agree with you. I remember sitting in front of the TV waiting for my school to scroll across the bottom. That's when I knew we were going to have a full day off of school, but that's no longer the case. Listen, you've been doing an amazing job out there. Fox Weather Storm Specialist Mike Seidel, thanks again for the images.